Hi everyone, and welcome to NSX Advanced Load Balancer Operation Workshop. Today we are going to talk about traffic flow manipulation. My name is Arnem, and today's topic is DataScripts. So what's DataScripts? It's a script that's written in Lua language. That script is being executed on a service engine that hosts a virtual service, and the DataScript is triggered based upon the specific events. Well, let's talk about why do we need DataScripts in general. Usually, all desired AVI functionality can be achieved through the user interface in the case of the HTTP policies. So, to manipulate traffic flow, 95% of the cases, the user interface HTTP request response policies is enough. But sometimes, in the rare cases, we have to resort to more advanced functionality, which is in the DataScripts itself. As I said, it's a script. It's written in a specific language, Lua language, and it's being assigned to a virtual service, and it's being triggered upon a certain event. So what can DataScripts do? It will actually inspect client HTTP request or L4 request. It can inspect response from a server, HTTP response or L4 response. It's used to handle, again, a specific use cases that's not supported with HTTP policies. And of course, it's reusable. You can use same DataScripts upon multiple virtual services. DataScripts uses functions. So functions is used to inspect and act on traffic flowing through the virtual services. For example, let's take a look at HTTP add cookie function. So it will be in a DataScript, and what it functions do, it can insert a new cookie. Or let's say AVI HTTP header. This function, when used in the DataScript correctly, will insert a new header. All HTTP functions are well documented and located on this link. I advise you to go there and see what DataScripts can do, because all the logic is being tied around these functions. Basically, it's if some function equals that, then apply other functions that will do this. Something along those lines. And then the DataScript is executed upon a certain event. For example, HTTP auth. So before client authentication, we will run this DataScript, or post auth after client authentication. Or we will run a script on a event where all header has been praised on the request, or upon all headers being praised upon the response, or when the response from a server has failed, or after the load balancing has been done. It's important to remember the execution priority, in that sense that, for example, virtual service security policy will be processed before the DataScript. So if the security policy will drop the request, the DataScript wouldn't even trigger because there is no more request, basically. Same goes for body processing. If WAF will drop the request, it will never go to DataScript. Same goes for response from the backend server. First, it will process a DataScript, and then it will process the response policy, HTTP response policy. So let's take a look at the simple use case. So the requirement was to have a www in the client request. So if client goes, for example, google.com, we needed to look as www.google.com. And let's look at the actual DataScript itself. So it starts with 2 dashes. 2 dashes in Lua language means just a comment. So first line is just a comment that this script is running upon HTTP request. The second line goes explaining the next if statement. So if HTTP hostname doesn't begin with www. So if string begin with, this is a Lua function that checks for the beginning of a string, and then the string itself uses the AVI function with AVI HTTP hostname that will basically return a hostname of a request. So if AVI hostname doesn't begin with www equals false, then we will run another DataScript function, which is HTTP redirect. So if the client hostname doesn't begin with www, then we will run a redirect, and we'll redirect client to a URI, and URI is function AVI HTTP protocol, which will return HTTP or HTTPS, then www, then original hostname and original URI. So that's what it is. This DataScript checks for the incoming request hostname. We're running it upon HTTP request, so we're examining incoming request headers. If hostname doesn't begin with www, then we'll issue a redirect, which will basically add www. And we'll take a look at this more in detail in our lab. Let's look at the second use case, which all revolves around the client certificate validation and header insertion. So we'll basically, again, the first line is comment. We'll check for request or HTTP or not by using the AVI HTTP secure function. So if this is a secure connection, because AVI HTTP secure will return on if it's a secure connection, we'll assign the cert verify variable the value of AVI HTTP function AVI SSL check client cert validity. And that function will return 1, 2, or nothing. It will return 1 if cert certificate is valid. So if it returns 1, we'll run another DataScript function which will insert a header. So if it's a valid cert, we'll insert client auth header with value of valid cert. So if check client cert validity function will return 2, which is invalid certificate, it will insert another header with different value. And if it will return nothing, then basically there was no certificate. So you can't get this functionality from HTTP policies, but you can do it via the DataScript. So DataScript will give you, again, the ability to do things on a very rare use cases where standard HTTP functionality just doesn't cut it. It's not robust enough. We could take a look at DataScript troubleshooting. Basically, there are two types of error: configuration error and execution error. Configuration error means the syntax error. So when we are putting in the DataScript and there are some error in syntax, we'll try to save it, and the UI will give us the error that it failed to compile to DataScript. So if you'll see that kind of an error, you would know that there's probably a syntax error sometimes, some typo somewhere. The second type of error is execution error, where the DataScript basically fails to execute because of some logic error. This type of mistakes we could see in the logs. So in virtual service logs, we'll see a significant log basically saying DataScript failed. To get more details, we could get in the all headers. See all headers, we'll see more about the data, why it's failed in the headers. Also, there is a DataScript logging. We can call function avvslog and basically get the output in the client log. So if we'll put in avvslog functions hello world, in the client log, we'll see DataScript log equal hello world. We could also put different variables in here or actual another functions. So here we assign variable num to 2 and using that variable in avvslog function, and on output we'll have hello to you because num equals 2. So we could use avvslog as a useful debugging tool to see if we want to get some output from the data scripts in our log. All right, now let's jump into the our lab. All right, so this is our HL lab, and let's add a data script to a virtual service. So first we're editing our virtual service, going to policies, data scripts, and add a data script. We'll select the scripts to execute because we don't have it. We'll create a new one. Let's call it my data script. And let's take an example from the slide deck for adding www to the request. So here we'll select a certain event upon which this data script will trigger. In our case, an HTTP request event. So upon HTTP request, we'll praise the headers. So again, 2 dashes is a comment, and then we're using different functions. We'll add www. We'll check if www is not in the host header, and if it's not, we'll issue a redirect with www to the same exact host name in URI. Let's click save. Save again. And let's issue some simple requests to our virtual service. So I use curl. And this is our domain name for virtual service. Let's issue the request. Let's say URI would be ZZZ. So with issue the request, we're having our 302 redirect, and as we see, it added www in here, and also it saved the original URI. So script executed correctly. Let's try to add some logging in our data script. So again, we're going into editing virtual services, going to policies, data scripts. Let's edit my data script. And here we'll add our function for logging. So let's say yes log hello world. And save. Let's remove the old data script. Then let's run the request again. And let's search traffic log for that request. I'll look for URI, which is ZZZ. Let's search non-significant logs. Alright, this is our 2 requests. And now we can see DataScript log hello world. So this function could be used for different debugging purposes in the script itself. We can run another function in the function, if it makes any sense. So for instead of hello world, we'll just see the original hostname. Instead of hello world, let's put an original hostname. And our function. So the output of the log would be text original hostname and the function IVHTTP hostname, which itself has the original hostname. Right, let's save. Run the request again. We'll see where another getting the redirect. Let's search the logs. Alright, this is our third request. And here, DataScript log, we see original hostname and the actual hostname of the request. Alright, so let me summarize the data scripts for you. As I said, most of the AVI desired functionality can be achieved through the policies, but sometimes when policies is not enough, we could use the script, which is written in Lua language and utilizes different AVI, different functions, which is DataScript, that could give us that additional functionality that is not available through the UI. And that's all I have for you today. My name is Artem, and I'll see you next time.